Good afternoon. We're on our final lesson as we walk through finding our purpose. And finding our purpose as we go through the acrostic. In the first week we talked about powerlessness. Then we talked about understanding. We looked at repentance. Then we talked about understanding. We talked about standing. And today we're going to finish by looking at endurance. Finding our purpose in endurance. And they say in this process of recovery that this is a marathon and this is not a sprint. And when you think about training for a race, don't you train differently for a sprint than you would a marathon? A lot of reasons why we continue to fall off is because we think that this is just a sprint to get back to things that we lost. Like, I need to get my family back. I need to get a job. And so once that becomes our finish line, and once we get that, we stop. But in a marathon, you have to keep on going, and you train differently. That's what endurance is. Endurance is the ability to keep going even when you are hurting and even though you are going through some things, right? I've never ran a marathon, but it looked pretty hard. Right? Any of y'all ever ran a marathon? No? We got one over there. And I imagine it's hard. They say it's 26 miles or something. You know. And recovery is a one day at a time for the rest of your life process. And you can't stop when you achieve some things or if you get some difficulty. And so, look at your paper. It says, let me end this series by reminding you that obedience to God's program is one of the requirements for endurance. Obedience, running the race correctly. We would not be able to endure by taking shortcuts. Some of us may wonder, how are we supposed to succeed at doing what God wants us to do? How can I endure? We have already admitted that we are powerless over the pull of our addiction. But God not only asks us to live godly lives, He also provides us with the power to do so. God is working in our lives to helping us to endure. See, we already have that power on the inside of us. It's not that you don't have it. See, if we're saved by the blood of the Lamb, the Holy Spirit resides in us. And so that means that we have the power to overcome anything that's in front of us. If you're not a Christian and you have just learned these tools of recovery, you have the power to overcome addiction. That's the good news. So either way it goes, you have the power. You have access to that power. We're not continuing to relapse because we don't have the power or we don't know how. We just choose not to use the tools that we have been taught. You know that old saying, it says, if you know better, you should what? Do better. Yeah, it's real simple. If I know better, I should do better. And so that's a choice that we make, is to continue to use. We have what it takes to endure. Now, before I get to the scripture, let me say this as well. At some point, y'all, you just gotta fight. You just gotta fight. What do you mean? Every time you have a desire to use, you can't just give in. See, sometimes you just gotta fight. When you're uncomfortable, that's what a marathon is. They say in a marathon, your body starts to hurt. You feel the pain, but you keep on going. And you get what they call that second wind. It's a second wind in recovery. But we don't never experience that freedom that comes after we have went through the pain because we give in to the pain. And recovery is difficult, y'all. Don't let nobody lie to you and say that once you get sober and move home and get all of those things that you want, then it's going to be easy selling. No, the fight don't even really begin till God bless us. with the job and the house and the wife and the children, that's when the real fight comes, right? You know, that's when it comes. Because all of those things comes with problems of their own. This is probably the easiest you're going to have it is in here. And when you think it's hard coexisting with the clients and treatment and dealing with the staff, we easy compared to when you get out there. That's when it gets real difficult. That's where the endurance comes. Will I be able to maintain that normal schedule and deal with my wife, deal with my children, deal with my responsibilities, and not get high? That's the job. You know, think about this, y'all. If all of those things that you have been praying for, if God gave you all of those things today, would you be ready? A lot of times, it is those yeses that throw us off rather than the no's. You know, because the big book says on page 451, it says that the hardest place to work the program is in your own home, with your own wife, and with your own family. That's the hardest place, they say. Think about that. That's supposed to be the easiest place. But the hardest place is at home, because those attacks are personal. And can I endure that? Can I endure dealing with my family? Can I endure dealing with my children? Can I endure getting my paycheck and all of my bills are more than my paycheck, and I'm just as broke on Friday as I was on Thursday, and I just got paid? But this time I actually paid my bills, but I'm still broke. A lot of times we can't endure that. And most of the time we're going to have more bills than we're going to have money. All of us brothers in here, we want a woman or our woman back. Right? Now, I don't know whether y'all know it or not, them people come with problems. You know, I talk to somebody who mate ain't here that may be able to answer that. You know, the brothers that got their mate here and their wives and girlfriend, they looking at the floor hoping, don't ask me. Because my life is wonderful with my family. Right? Just wonderful. Just wonderful.
No problem.
No problem at all. That's funny. Luke 21:19 says, by your endurance, you will gain your lives. By your endurance, you will gain your lives. So the first one, endurance requires faith. It requires faith. It is by our endurance, by going through some things, that we get our life back. And that takes faith, because Hebrews 11:1 said, now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen, right? Pastor Parker says his interpretation of that is faith makes the future present and it makes the unseen seen. And so it is difficult to have endurance when you can't see what the outcome is going to be. And you're working real hard and you're doing these things and you don't have any evidence. And that's what's hard for us as people in recovery, because we want what we want when we want it right now. And so you telling me to work real hard and just trust the process. No, you need to tell me what the outcome is going to be. Then maybe I can work. And so that's the trick that Satan has for us in this disease. See, we want y'all family members to assure us that if we work through this program, you're going to forgive me, you're going to take me back, I'm going to have a great job when I come back, and I'm going to get a brand new car and all of that, and I'll work the program. And y'all say, no, work the program and we'll see. And we say, well, shoot, ain't no need of me going through all this work, because you may not take me back no way. And y'all saying, family saying, no, I need to see you work it, then I'll let you know. Y'all see the contradiction in that? And so we have a standoff because we want some assurance, and it ain't none. Family members, y'all are doing the same thing. Y'all are saying, work this program, stay sober. Then I'll let you know. And we like, no, we want assurance. And both sides got to have faith. You see what I'm saying? You got to trust the process. And y'all got to, and what, by y'all presence, y'all have taken the first step. Because y'all are coming and y'all are showing up. And that means that y'all are saying, I'm going to support you through this. But you need to show me something. And that's where the faith part comes in. And so it requires that. But there is no guarantees in this thing called recovery. It's just not. Because I was reading this article the other day. It said something like that 85% of addicts that go through a 90-day program fall off. People that go through a long-term program like this one, it's like 60-something%. And that's hard. So that even going through a program like this, that's 6 months, 60% of the people that finish still fall, 40% fall off. That's like half of the room, either or the other side. And so that means that somebody's family going to be disappointed. And the faith is, do I support them knowing 100% that there's a high possibility that they may fall off? And that's the difficult part. Hard for y'all to support, hard for the person in recovery to work real hard. But we learn on page 58 in the big book, it says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover, people who cannot or will not give themselves to this simple program. The NA text says they have never seen a person relapse that was working the NA program. So that's a guarantee. If I work it, that's the point. It's hard for us to do what we're supposed to do. See, recovery is real simple. It goes like this. Do what you told, when you told, how you told. Y'all remember when the old people used to say, when I say jump, you just ask, high. Well, that's that old school raising. That's what my mama used to say. But when I tell you to jump, the only thing you need to ask is how high. See, if we can get that, we can stay clean. Because we just got to do what we're told, when we're told, how we're told. You do that, you stay clean. But that's where it takes faith, because they tell you go to 90 meetings in 90 days. What that's going to do? Man, just go to 90 meetings in 90 days. Call your sponsor. Well, they don't be answering all the time. Then the program didn't say call your sponsor and they going to answer all the time. The program said call your sponsor. It didn't say nothing about whether or not they going to answer. That's where the faith part comes in. Because that's what faith is, right? Faith is doing what you're supposed to do and believing that the results are going to come. That's difficult. My pastor says we don't have no problem trusting when it comes to our job, because that's faith. Because we go and get a job. You know what they tell us? Come and work, put a week in the hole, and work 2 weeks and trust that we're going to pay you for the work that you already done. And we don't know them people. Right? But you go to work, right? And believe they're going to pay you. It's just going to magically appear in your bank account when they say it is. Now that's faith. But we won't have faith in working the program, but we got faith in the people. So who you going to trust? Your employer, or you going to learn to trust God? I think God is more reliable than the people we work for, don't you? And we don't argue with them. We don't say, you need to give me some money up front. We don't say none of that. We just, oh, thank you for hiring me. When do I start? That's what we say, right? So it requires faith. Check this out. As we experience this new way of life, we begin to realize that recovery is a priceless gift. And that's what it is, y'all. Sobriety is priceless. Man, you can't quantify sobriety monetarily. Man, when I got clean, my life changed. One of the most beautiful things that have ever happened to me is sobriety. It just opened up a whole new way of life for me. It says we learn to trust as we do. We open the doors to intimacy and develop new relationships. Where once we focus only on not using. As our awareness grows, so does our appreciation and faith in God. And let me just camp here just for a second. In the beginning, the only thing that we focus on is just not getting high. And that's the first part. But after a while, we start focusing on life and life more abundantly and having things and doing things and enjoying life because we become happy, joyous, and free. It ain't just about not using. I don't go through my day no more focusing on not getting high. I get up, and that's what the program gives us. It gives us some sense of normality back. And that's what we want. We want to get out of here and just have normal people problems. Isn't that wonderful? Just normal people problems. Whatever y'all have. You know, my car didn't start. You know, I'm tired from working. Instead of I sold them, you know, I sold my shoes and all that kind of stuff. I hope I don't go to jail. You know, that's the old problem. We come in here and we just get some new problems. And in the beginning, we be so happy to have them. You know, then we become like y'all and start having normal people complaints. You know. Number 2, Romans 5:3 says, more than that, we rejoice in our suffering, knowing that suffering produces endurance. Number 2, endurance requires suffering. Endurance requires suffering. Y'all, we don't get through this life without suffering. That is really God's prescription for growth. We have to go through some things, and then we grow. Now, none of us like pain and like suffering. At least I don't. I don't like pain. I want a pain-free life. But guess what? When I look back, I am better for the things that I went through. That's where I got stronger. I looked up wisdom. Wisdom comes, y'all, from us going through failure and going through stuff. It's foolish to keep going through the same thing and not learn. Right. Wisdom comes from failure. Wisdom comes from doing stupid stuff and learning from it. That's how we get wisdom. You don't get wise without going through something. You know that? That's why we go to people who are a little older than us because they done been on earth and they done went through some things, and so they can tell us some stuff. Why? Not because they've done everything right. It's because they've seen some things and they've experienced some things and they failed at some things, and they can say, you know what? You don't need to try that. I've already done that one, and that one don't work. And we become wiser when we say, you know what? That don't work. Why? Because I was already told that don't work. See, you don't have to go and try it all the time. You know, you can learn from other people's experience. You ain't got to necessarily experience it for yourself. I used to be the crash dummy for the program. You know, I would go out there and do something stupid and fall off, and when I come back, there was a group of guys that would be real interested in what happened. And they said, what happened, man? And I tell them that. Then they say, so we can't do that, huh? I said, no. And then they didn't do it. They learned from me. And then I found out that, you know what? I'm going to get me some crash dummies. I don't want to be the crash dummy for the program no more. I learned how to learn from others' mistakes. Why don't y'all try that? But it requires some suffering, y'all. You're going to go through some things. And let me say it another way for you all. And just because you suffer, it doesn't mean you have to use. Check this out. Everything, I always ask the clients, tell me the top 4 or 5 things that if they would happen, you would probably fall off. And you know what they say? If something happens to my mother, if something happens to my children, if something happens to somebody in my family, and I said, you got a 100% guarantee that all that's going to happen. Now what you going to do? Because something going to happen to your kids. I don't know what, but something. The natural order of thing is that your parents die before you. Right? And so we got to learn to go through those types of things without using. That's the beautiful part of it. But you're going to suffer. But we got to go through some stuff. And say, no matter what, I'm not going to get high. That makes sense? Yeah. Because we look for excuses. Now, we don't want them things to happen. But I done seen a lot of brothers go through this program and their parents die. And we rally beside them and they walk through that without getting high. I done seen brothers go through divorce. I done seen people where something happened to their children. They lose their job and they walk through it clean and sober. That's called suffering. Now, those are the worst case scenario, but sometimes suffering is just we looking for a job longer than we want to look. We're not making the kind of money we want to make. But whatever that suffering is, you have to realize that God allowed that in your life to grow you and to mature you, not to take you out. That's the process. You see what I'm saying? Because we get stronger by going through something. If we were lifting weights and you start out and you got 50 pounds on there and you lifting it, you know what we say after a while? Put some more on there. Right? Ain't that what we say? And we master that and we say what? But we don't say God, we don't tell God when we're going through something and we get to some level of maturity, we don't say, God, put some more on there. How many of y'all have done that before? Say, God, I need to grow some more, put some more pain and suffering in my life so that I can grow. That's the only area we don't want to grow in. We want to grow, but we don't want the prescription. Because I don't say, Lord, I really want to get close to you. Put some more pain in my life. But guess what? I am the closest to God when I am going through something. I pray more fervently. I read the word more fervently. I come into church and worship. As soon as it starts going good, I slack up. Any of y'all in here like me? I kind of slack up then. And since he wants a relationship with me, he allows stuff into my life to draw me back to him. Because I ain't got sense enough how to stay there without him. Just me. I know y'all not like that. But endurance requires suffering, y'all. We got to learn how to go through it. We got to learn how to go through it and keep going. This is a 6-month program, y'all. And it's a hard program, so y'all family members say. You know. And they have to endure. And y'all do too. Check this out. I'm going to try to hear it. Part of the endurance is this. What happens when your family members start to look good and sound good, that's when you want to draw them out. And you don't want to endure the rest of the process. Just like them. Because they tell y'all once they start to feel good, and they start to feel good and look good around month 2, they probably look better than you've seen them look in a long time. Because they done gained all their weight back, their skin done cleared up, and y'all be like, wow, you back, baby. You back. And the endurance is, can I stay in the race once I start to look good? That's when it's hard. When I get my appearance back and I get my family back, can I endure? In the How and Why on page 33, it says, recovery doesn't exempt us from having to live through painful situations. When such things happen to us, we hurt, and no amount of spiritual awareness would take our pain away. We do find, however, that the caring presence of God helps us through our pain clean. And that's what I was talking about. But being in a relationship with God don't absorb us from feeling the pain. Working the steps don't absorb us of feeling the pain. We just get to realize that he is with us. I'm going to a 7 o'clock Bible study on Tuesday mornings, 7 a.m. Take me about 45 minutes to get there. It's at 7 a.m. That's some endurance within itself. But anyway, we're walking through the book of Daniel. And this past Tuesday, we was on chapter 3. And we know the story about the 3 Hebrew boys, and they did not bow. But guess what? God did not absorb them from being thrown into the pit. He just got in there with them. That's what this is talking about. It don't absorb us from it. God is just with us. And we have to learn how to have that as enough. And sometimes we want God to do things that's not in his nature and in his character, because we want him to absorb us from going through things. I just want to tell you, that ain't how it works. That makes sense? Colossians 1 and 11 says, may you be strengthened with all power according to his glorious might, for all endurance and patience with joy. Number 3, first we talked about what it requires. Now we're going to talk about what it produces. It requires some things and it produces some things. Endurance produces joy. It produces joy. Because when we complete something, we experience our greatest joy, right? You know, that's why at high school graduations and stuff, parents are shouting and the kids are happy. Why? Because it was kind of hard to get them through. My last child didn't look like that brother was going to make it. At graduation, I was already prepared to shout. I'm so glad my name is Bussey, because I don't know what I would have done if my last name would have been Zane or Williams or something. Because when I walked in the door, I said, whenever they get to the B's, I'm going to act out. And the people, you know, they always stand up there and say this crazy stuff. Hold your applause to the end. The people didn't know what I done went through trying to get this dude through high school. Ain't no way in the world I can wait to the Williams. My name is Bussey. When they said his name, it produced joy in me. Just like it will if your loved one get clean. You let them, y'all be at this graduation shout. Crying. Because this is a long time coming. That's why most of the time when I meet y'all, y'all crying. Because y'all be like, can you just help him? And when they accept it, you know, they crying because y'all dropping them off here and they mad. Y'all crying because y'all relieved. 2 different emotions going on at the same time, both of them producing tears. Mama, you really gonna leave me? Yes. It produces joy, y'all. And joy is a wonderful thing. And in our last series, we found out that happiness is contingent upon happenings. In order for me to be happy, that means that everything got to go my way. You know, when I'm happy with my wife, that means she's doing what I say. So sometimes I ain't necessarily happy with her or vice versa. But that don't mean we don't have joy. Joy is that peace that passes all understanding. See, I can have joy even when things not going right, when I have a relationship with God and when I have faith. You see what I'm saying? That's not what joy is. We think joy is everything is going right. Sometimes, y'all, I know I'm saved and I am sober and I got a relationship with God, and sometimes things don't be going my way, but I am still having some joy. You know, that's what God wants, because that's what's attractive about us. That's what people want to see when we're at our job and going through things or whatever the case may be. And we have some peace, and people wondering, how do you have that? You understand that? And they wonder how you keep it together. You know, I've watched some brothers go through this program, and I've watched them go through some things in life and stay clean. And that's when I know they got something going. When my wife and I went to see Pastor Parker, we went to her pastor for premarital. We were supposed to have been just going to him to talk, but it turned into a counseling session some kind of way. But and he talked about the possibility of me falling off. And what he said to her was, I have seen him go through some things. I can't guarantee that he's going to stay clean. But what I've seen this brother go through some things and stay clean. Is that what he said? And so that way I have some trust. And so she had a little relief, I hope. You know, I didn't think he should be talking about, you know, that wasn't his job in there in that meeting, but, you know, talking about relapse, he's supposed to be in there telling her, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I guess since he's the pastor now, he's supposed to tell the truth or something like that. But that's what produces the joy, y'all, when we can go through some things and have some peace. That makes sense? Because we can't get thrown off every time. In the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, when it talks about expectation, it says that I have to put more importance on my serenity than I do my sobriety. Because if I don't have any serenity, I ain't going to have no sobriety long. That's why joy is important. See, I got to find some peace, you know. And when we first, in early recovery, we're an emotional roller coaster. That's why you got to learn not to go on it with people, because we're not necessarily bipolar, but we bipolar-ish. Because one day we up and we good, and the next day we depressed, and sometimes it can happen all within, you can walk out of a room and walk back into the room, and we're in a totally different emotional state. We be laughing and talking, and you go get some water and come back, you be like, what happened? Nothing. Well, what happened? Nothing. I just don't think, that ever happened? You ever see him? Just do like that. Couples are funny. It's hard balance between telling the truth on your mate and being a loving, supportive mate. You don't know which one to do. You know, do I tell the truth now? Or do I say, oh no, my man is strong and just as level and just as smooth? Then get out to the car and say, baby, you know I didn't tell the truth. But I ain't want to front you. Hebrews 10:36. For you have need of endurance. For you have need of endurance, so that you may do the will of God and receive what is promised. We have need of that, y'all. Endurance produces a reward. It produces a reward. And we all like an award, don't we? That's why you see people when they make that marathon race and they go through, even though they might have been tired, but then they still celebrate, tired or not, because they get the crown. See, I had a competition last week with a 7-year-old, a cheerleading competition, and I hugged her out, and I got an award. That may not be true, but in my mind, that's what happened. But we get a reward. What's the reward? The reward, y'all, is just being clean. That's it. And we get our family back, and we have a normal life. And that's the award. The program don't guarantee us our family back. It don't promise us no great job. It promises us the freedom from active addiction. But we see we do get that back. We're looking at this brother over here, you know, he got a family and got a baby on the way and doing well. That's the reward, but that just don't happen all the time. But when it do, it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful, and we get that. Because everybody come through here, let me say it another way. Amazingly, y'all, most of our clients have a scattered work history. They have criminal record. Do you know we have a 100% success rate when it comes to our clients finding jobs? In 28 years, 100% of our clients leave here with a job, and we ain't got no job search program. We ain't got none of that. We just pray and send them out. And I know that don't make any sense. I go to these places and they have all of these processes. We want one, we just ain't found nobody to do it for us, and we can't afford to pay nobody. So, but you know what we do? We just pray. And like Oprah Winfrey said with them cars, he get a job, he get a job, he get a job. Everybody get a job. And it's been that way for 28 years. Everybody. And we be just as shocked as they are that they come back and most of the time they're making more money than they've ever made. I don't understand it. This brother shaking their head like, yeah, that's how I roll. And it's been like that for all of us. But y'all, you got to have some endurance to get through the process to get the reward at the end. Ain't no shortcuts cuts to this. Let me end. In our gratitude, we go beyond merely asking for the power to live up to God's plan for our lives. We begin to seek out ways to be of service, to make a difference in the lives of other addicts. We carry the message of recovery. Let me say it this way. Pain drives us in here, y'all. Gratitude keeps us out of here. A grateful addict is a sober addict. A grateful addict is a sober addict. And I need to hang on to my gratitude. I'm so happy to just be clean. I don't know what to do. Because I remember what not being clean felt like. And so it's a wonderful thing. And so I try to remember every day what it feels like. And so that's why I keep giving back. Because they also tell me that I can't keep what I have unless I give it away. Now, I'm so happy to have this job, but you know what? Even if I wasn't getting paid to do this, I got to do this somewhere because that's the only way I get to keep what I have. And the reason your loved one is back in here or in places like this, because they stopped serving and they stopped giving. They thought it was just about them and you. It's bigger than you. And we don't, sometimes y'all, family members become so selfish. Y'all don't want to let us go and serve. And I understand it because, you know, we have been away from y'all so long. But y'all got to let us go and let us serve and help somebody else. That's when we're made better. Because we got to do this. We got to help somebody else. That's the plan. That's what discipleship is about. Discipleship is about you reproducing yourself. And so that's what this thing is about. It's about us reproducing. Arthur over there, he started his own program. He came through here. He's one of the first clients when I started here. Now he's doing that. That's what everybody wants. It's for someone to get clean. And they go back out and they start helping somebody else, and then this thing spreads. That's called discipleship. That's called recovery. And it's not just about you going home and just having a family and stopping there. Because then the process stops and you get stagnant and you'll be back. So you got to let us go in order to keep us, family members. And we're going to say we tired and we don't want to go to no meetings. You got to encourage us to go to meetings. You got to encourage us to do what we need to do. Or we'll disappear on you again. That's how it works. That makes sense? And that's what the endurance is. I got 24 years clean, and I got to continue to do this. Now, you would think that at 24 years, I could stop. That makes logical sense. It does to me. Because that's what I tell myself sometimes. Surely, after 24 years, I could stop. That makes sense to me. And then I talk to some people, and they tell me, no, man, you better not stop. This is a fatal and progressive disease. You're gonna go back, and it's going to be worse. I'm like, man, surely one beer after 24 years ain't going to do nothing. And sister said, no, that may not be good. That makes sense. Right? To the people who not in recovery. That makes sense. Because that's what y'all tell us. So you can't drink nothing? Ever? No. And I'm going to end with this. Sometimes when y'all say that, it's because we messing up your buzz because we ain't drinking with you. That's selfishness on your part. It's hard losing your drinking partner when you've lost them. You've lost them. Next Saturday, we will not